All right, everyone. Welcome to an episode of At the Bar, back at you for season 2. This is where we get a chance to sit down and have conversations about health, fitness, and mindset with a variety of guests on the show. So I'm excited to be sitting down today with Maria Codispoti. Maria, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Maria, we're excited to get to know you a little bit better and see what makes you tick, as well as some of the things you're striving for and some of the goals that you're working towards right now. So, let everybody know a little bit more about you, Maria. Tell us about yourself.
Okay. Like Brad said, my name is Maria Codispoti. I am 23 years old. I'm a coach at CrossFit Shoe Fly. I'm also an officer in the North Carolina Army National Guard. I'm also a social worker. I just recently graduated with my master's in social work, specifically working with individuals that have substance use disorders. And I love competing in CrossFit.
Yeah, I love all the different hats, and congratulations on recently graduating. That's always a fun and exciting time. So tell us a little bit more about what your health and fitness background is. Obviously, you're into competitive CrossFit now, but give us a little flavor for what it was like growing up and how you got involved and how you came to find CrossFit.
Oh, wow. It's a long story, actually. But I grew up playing soccer. I was also a gymnast and an all-star cheerleader. And then freshman year of high school, my sister decided to make a lacrosse team. She's like, you should play lacrosse. And I was like, all right. I was kind of hesitant at first, but I was like, let me just give it a try. Try something different, field sport, because I've been used to gymnastics and cheerleading. So I decided to try it, and I fell in love with the sport. I decided to give it my full effort to see how far I can go. And I ended up by my junior year getting offers to play in college. And that's where I decided to play D3 so I could focus on ROTC and the National Guard because I had to balance so many things. So I decided to play D3 at Meredith College. And I played there for 2 years. And that's where I met Danielle Lee, who's a coach at CrossFit Shoe Fly. I dabbled a little bit in CrossFit just to keep in shape for lacrosse season. But Danielle was my assistant coach, and she was also my strength coach in college. And one day she came up to me with her country accent, and she's like, you got tree trunk legs. You should come to CrossFit Shoe Fly. And I was just like, I don't know whether to take that as a compliment or not, but I guess I will. And she's like, come to Shoe Fly, seriously, like you'd be a really good weightlifter. And I was like, okay. So I guess like a week later, I came for Murph just to try it out. I wasn't really in CrossFit shape then. And then a week after that, I came in and tried some weightlifting, fell in love with weightlifting. I remember Chelsea and Street sitting like on a bench watching me weightlift, and they definitely saw the potential in me, and that made me want to continue with the sport. And then somewhere down the line, I switched to CrossFit after U25 nationals. I decided to try to qualify for that. Qualified for that, got 7th in Las Vegas. Went to the North Carolina State Championships, had a really bad cut, and decided to just take a break for a while from weightlifting and focus more on CrossFit. So these past 2 years or year and a half, I've been doing CrossFit and actually training for it. This was my first like full open this year, so that was pretty exciting. But yeah, that's how I got to CrossFit.
It's amazing how many different experiences you've had, and I always find it fascinating because when people ask how can I get better at CrossFit, or like you said, you wanted to be competitive, what's the best course of action. And it's kind of interesting to see how many different opportunities you've had, whether it was gymnastics, cheerleading, whether it was lacrosse, like all of these different components have built into, what makes you an athlete now. And so I'm curious to hear from you as you think back on all those different experiences and the different team environments you've been in. What are some of your favorite aspects about being a part of a team or competing? What has kind of driven you to keep finding some new avenues to challenge and push yourself?
Um, Honestly, like just growing up, being on a team, I feel like any sport I've done or anything really in life, I've tried to see my full potential.
Mhm.
Um, and just trying to work to get there and see where I can go. But having people around you that push you every day definitely makes you want to be better in the gym. I don't have like specific like examples, but I think just overall having someone who believes in you more than yourself, whether that's one person or multiple people, and then having people that push you every day, and also see the potential in you. So I think that's the biggest thing for me is that support system, that camaraderie. It's not all about the sport and feeling good from the sport, but it's the people you surround yourself with within the sport. So I think that's the biggest thing for me is who I surround myself with, the people, the support system. Even if that's just one person that says, "Hey, you could do this. Like you're capable of doing this." That's what kind of gets me through and motivates me.
Yeah, so many threads that I would love to pull on there that we probably get a chance to dive into. This concept of potential, this idea of camaraderie and the people around you and who you surround yourself with. So let's dive into that last thread you talked about with surrounding yourself with people who support you, who encourage you, who maybe see a little bit more in you than you might see in yourself. So talk to us about how those people have shaped you into who you are now. Like what have they provided? What have they done in terms of whether it's encouragement or direct application of here's how to work out or move better or whatever it might be? How have they shaped you into the person that you are now?
Um, I've had a lot of bad coaches and a lot of good coaches. And the coach that stands out the most is my high school lacrosse coach, who actually saw the most potential in me when I didn't see it in myself. She's like, "Oh, you could play college. You just got to do this, this, and this." And I was like, "Okay." But if I didn't have her, I probably wouldn't push that hard and try to be on a college team, right? So I think having bad coaches have also shaped me. I've had, which is pretty crappy thinking back to it, I've had coaches say that you're not going to be good enough to do this. You don't have the potential to do this. And I was like, I'm going to show them that I have the potential. It actually like lit a fire under my butt. I was like, I'm going to prove them wrong. And then when I got good coaches around me and they were encouraging me, it helped me even more to get to the space I am now. Um, Specifically at the gym, like Chelsea and Street telling me that I have the potential, um, really helped shape me into how I am now. Because I used to be very shy, um, didn't just very shy and timid, and they brought out more of the confidence in myself just by providing it for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that speaks volumes to how a lot of us learn and develop confidence or this belief in ourselves is sometimes we do have to look to outside sources and find it from somewhere other than within. And whether that's a friend, a parent, a coach, whoever it might be, can help us develop some of that, which I think is awesome to hear the experiences that you've had. And I know you do get a chance to coach now, so I'm sure that influences how you coach and how you interact with people. Something you said there that I'm curious to hear from you and your perspective is you said some coaches who maybe weren't the most effective and maybe doubted you a little bit, lit a fire under you, and others have supported and encouraged and brought out the best in you. So when you look at those sort of two ends of the spectrum, those coaches maybe who are a little bit more, I don't want to say judgmental, but maybe pushing a little more doubt in your mind versus the
Yeah.
encouraging, supporting, which one do you respond better to? Do you respond better to the one who's like uplifting and encouraging the whole time? Or do you need a coach who's going to kick you in the butt sometimes? Or is it both?
That's a complex question, Brad.
It is.
I don't know. A little bit of both. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm right now, Street's my coach, right, for CrossFit. I would say she does both.
Mhm.
Like, if she ever hears me talking negative about my performance or how I did in a workout, she'll nip it in the bud. She's like, shut up. She's like, you did awesome and you need to be proud of yourself. So then I'll just shut up and not say. Sometimes I need that. I need someone to nip it in the bud and be like, no, don't do that. Don't say that about yourself. But I also like having encouragement once in a while and someone tell me you're doing great. Keep up the hard work.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a mixture. But if someone's telling me that I'm not good enough or that I don't have the potential, I'm going to prove them wrong. Like, that's just my personality.
Yeah.
So I guess I respond well to
both. Yeah. And one thing, that I appreciate about that response is that there's a time and place sort of for both, and figuring out what the athlete needs and when he or she needs it. That's, I think, the biggest challenge that coaches face is it time to motivate? Is it time to encourage and support? How do I go about doing that? So it's interesting to hear from your perspective. There's times and places where it's been really helpful or meaningful for you. There's a word I kind of want to dive into that I've heard you reference a number of times so far, this idea of potential. And you talked about reaching your potential, finding your potential, whatever that might be. Tell us a little bit about, what does that word mean to you? Because I've heard you say it a couple times now. So when you think about this concept of potential, define that for us.
So it's a common word used in social work a lot. Anytime we're working with a client, this is going to be an extreme example, but I'll just say it anyway. If someone has a substance use disorder, a lot of families will say this person doesn't have potential, they're far gone. As a social worker, it's our job to find the potential in someone and find their strengths and see how they can get better or where their potential is at. And I personally believe everyone has potential, no matter what is happening in their life. So anytime I'm making a goal or thinking of potential, I want to make it measurable and realistic at the same time. And I kind of cross that over into CrossFit and my goals going forward as a CrossFit athlete. And when I think of potential, I look at myself now, where I'm at, how far I've come in a short period of time, and where I can go from there, and what aspects in my life that are going to either hinder me or help me progress to that goal. So that's what I think about when I think potential in my mind.
Yeah. And one of the things I heard you say there is there's sort of this optimistic view on it. So it's this, not necessarily a destination, although it could be, but it's, what am I moving towards that I want to get there, or I'm trying to get there, and what are the steps that I'm going to take to move in that direction. So along those lines, I'm curious to kind of hear your perspective on this idea of goal setting. So you said you've got goals and things that you're striving for and working to achieve. Do you find, as an athlete, you're somebody who wants to have a very concrete and like specific goal? Or are you more of an athlete who, when you think about this concept of potential, like, I'm just going to keep working, and maybe there's some things I'd like to achieve, but I'm not sure what the end destination is, but I'm just going to keep moving and seeing where it goes? What kind of athlete are you? You like those concrete goals, or just sort of a, let's see where it goes, and I just want to maximize that journey?
I am, when you get to know me, I am not go with the flow type of person unless I have to be. But I like concrete goals. I've always been that way. If I want to do something, I'm going to write it down and be like, this is the goal I want. Is it measurable? Is it realistic? Okay, I'm going to reach it by this time. And it helps me reach that goal. if it's something where it's like a bar muscle up or something, I'm struggling with it. That's more of where I kind of go with the flow. I'm like, okay, let's try to inch up to that goal to see where I can get. But I guess it's a mixture to answer your question, but I like more of a concrete goal personally.
Helps you know where you're going.
Unless it drives me crazy, then I'll be more go with the flow.
Yeah. Depending on what you establish,
Yeah.
is there a need to adjust course potentially? So concrete goals are what you're a bigger fan of. So help us understand, what are some of the things that you're striving towards, or maybe some of those concrete goals that are within the future for you?
Next year, my goal is to make semifinals, whether that's in the capacity of a team or an individual. I'm working really hard right now to try to make that goal happen. However, if I fall short, at least I died trying to make semifinals. That's the way I put it. But the concrete goal is definitely to make semifinals. The more long-term goal for me is to be at the games, also in some sort of capacity, whether that's team or individual. And I want to do that in the next like 5 years.
Yeah.
That's my
Awesome. So we've got some more concrete established goals. 1 year looking to make it through what would be, I guess you could call it like the second level of the CrossFit Open season. So get through the Open, make it in that top 10%, get through those quarterfinals into that, what would be the top, I don't know, 120 out of 10,000. So a pretty elite crew. So make it to a semifinal within the year, and then within the 5-year plan, make it to the CrossFit Games. So I'd love to hear from you then, thinking about some of the different habits, behaviors, skills, things like that for you. What are the ones that you find to be most beneficial or helpful as you continue to strive towards those goals? So whether it's certain attitudes you engage in, certain behaviors that you feel like help you most, pretty much fair game. Take it wherever you want to take it.
Also a loaded question. There are multiple things. I would say the first one regarding attitude. I still am, but I used to be very hard on myself after every workout, like nitpicking everything. And Street told me one day, I was really upset after a workout, and she's like, Maria, like, you need to be more of a robot. Like, you don't have feelings towards this workout. You just need to work hard. And that's the goal for today. And now I keep that in my mind. I'm like, all right, I'm not going to complain out loud. I'm not going to have any negative emotions. Instead, I'm going to try to find the positive in each workout I do. So if there's a workout where I feel like I didn't do as good, or I did too many reps in the beginning of something, that's something that I can learn from. And that's more of the positive outlook of the workout, rather than being like, I did terrible in that workout, I shouldn't have done that. But instead of having this other mentality of, okay, I learned from that workout, let's move on and go from there. From another perspective, I guess it's listening to your body. If there's a day where I'm like, I absolutely cannot give quality work, I'm going to take that day off. I don't care what I had planned that day. Sometimes it's better to have quality over quantity, instead of just drilling yourself into the ground with all these workouts. If I'm not feeling good and there's no quality to these workouts, I'm going to stop, rest that day, do it the next day. Because I've been doing it way too long, where I'll try to do too many things and then I end up not getting better because I'm doing too many things. And that kind of goes hand in hand with having a coach that knows you. I've been training with Street for a while in CrossFit. We've done some competitions together. She knows me sometimes more than I know myself. So having a coach that knows you and what your needs are, and having that open line of communication, is very important to me. A lot of athletes will choose the track of like doing more of the big name programming, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. Um, but I feel like what works best for me is having a coach that knows me and knows what I need to work on, rather than doing programming that is for a lot of people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's multiple things,
Oh,
but
yeah.
those are the main things I would say.
Yeah. And so one of those things I heard you mention, between the mental side, the physical side, the support system side, you started with that mental side and looking at this idea of the attitude in which you approach workouts, evaluate workouts, how you frame it up in a way that is more of a learning mindset. So I'm curious to hear from you. How did you come to cultivate that particular type of mindset? I know you said Street had a big impact on you with some words that she said. But when you think about the attitude in which you approach, training and recovery and all the other factors, social worker, being, in the army, how have you come to cultivate the attitude and the mindset that you have to work towards these goals in such a way that seems like you're very dialed in and locked in on it?
In a way, I need to practice what I preach, because if I'm out there telling people, hey, as a leader in the National Guard and as a social worker, if I'm telling people to do one thing and I'm not doing that myself, there's an issue there. So I try to practice what I preach in that sense. But also, I found myself not enjoying working out and doing CrossFit. And I was like, I don't want it to be that way. I don't want it to be where I feel like I'm just going through the motions. Right. And when you're hard on yourself like that all the time, you're going to end up in that mindset where you're not enjoying what you're doing and there's no purpose behind it anymore. So having a more positive outlook on my goals and my training has helped me in many ways, and it just makes me feel happier. And when I'm at the gym, like I'm fully tuned in at the gym and I'm like, all right, let's get these workouts in. Like I'm excited to do them. Like I have more energy. I don't know, it just helped me build quality in my workouts. Um, and it's helped me in my training overall. So that's why I choose to continue to do it that way. There are times, I'm human. There are times where I will complain or say something and then I'll catch myself. I'm like, let me stop there. What are some positive things? And I'll try to go back to that.
Yeah, so that learning mindset comes back through of just tuning in and being aware of the conversations, that dialogue you're having in your own head, and noticing that those days where you were pushing it a little bit much in terms of what you're expecting to get out of the workout or beating yourself up about it, it seemed to take a little bit of a toll mentally and physically.
Yeah.
And shifting, changing sort of the perspective to what I would call a more optimistic mindset when we're
Yeah.
starting to look at how can we make positive changes has provided a happier experience for you, but also allowed you to potentially perform better, it sounds like.
Oh, yes. Like tremendously better. It's easy to get in your own head, like you're your own worst enemy at times. And just letting go of that, or learning how to let go. It's taken me a long time, but learning how to let go of those negative feelings or emotions and just trying to focus in and be in the moment, um, and just maybe think of things you're thankful for that day or grateful for. That definitely helps you get through hard training sessions and just life in general.
Yeah. So one of the mental skills I heard you just identify is, having a gratitude practice around
Mm.
identifying things that are going well, or things you're appreciative of, or things that have some meaning to you. So it sounds like that's something that's been effective for you. I'm also curious if there's any other, whether you want to call them formal or not, just like mental skills you've used when you talk about this idea around, shifting your mindset and seeing the good in those workouts and all of that. Like, is there anything formally you've done or just informally, like you've just learned over time how your brain works best?
Um, I started, no one knows this about me. I'm just going to say it anyway. It's a secret. um, every night before I go to bed, I have like in my little note section, I'll write down 3 things that either went well that day,
Mhm.
or if I didn't train or whatever. It doesn't have to be CrossFit related, but things like I'm grateful for. Or, it sounds cheesy, but I go to bed more happy. And I'm like, all right, I had a good day today. I'm gonna go to sleep. Next day will be better. And I try to write it down as much as I can. But it's easier to do it in my phone because I'll just forget and like not write it on paper. But literally, I'll be in bed writing the 3 things, and I'll think about it for a little bit, put my phone down, go to bed, and you're happy you're going to bed instead of thinking, oh, I had a terrible training session today. That didn't go well. So I try to pick things that make me happy and make me want to keep going and pursuing the sport and just anything in life, really.
Yeah. And that's a really powerful skill and behavior to engage in. A lot of people love doing that to start the day, end the day, finding those things that you would deem that you're grateful for. And it's amazing because it actually does rewire our brain in a way that we actually see the world a little bit differently, which is pretty cool. So it's interesting to hear that that particular habit has worked so well for you. I'm curious to hear because you did say, we are human. There's workouts that maybe don't go well, training sessions, or just days, weeks, maybe it seems like that don't go as well. Help us understand when you talked about this idea of letting go or, kind of blocking out some of that negativity. How do you go about doing that? How do you overcome difficult and challenging moments or situations or training sessions, both inside and outside the gym? What have you found that works for you?
Um, I think when I used to get like really mad at myself, I would kind of say it out loud or just act really pissed off and have a negative attitude. But I found if I don't do as well in a workout, I'll kind of walk it off a little bit, take a longer walk than usual, and just think about the things that I've learned from that experience.
Mm.
Um, Instead of trying to channel those negative emotions. Like at first I'll be like, oh, like that didn't go as well as I thought. And then I'll kind of walk to the end of the parking lot, you know how we walk it off at the end of a workout. And then I'll think of things like, okay, next time if I were to do a workout like this, I would do A, B, and C. Instead of, I think of it more as like a learning curve versus like it being a negative thing now.
Mhm.
And that's just things I've learned from being around like you guys and just higher level athletes too. You have to think that way because if you start to think negative, that's when self doubt and creeps into your mind and you won't perform as well and it'll just be a downward spiral. So I've learned it mostly from being around people that are like minded in that way.
Mm.
And from streets, like if you want to be at this level, you can't be like that. Like you have to learn from these experiences. These are learning experiences. This
Mhm.
is why you're doing this. I'm like, that is true. So I try to shift my mindset. And it's taken a long time. And
Mhm.
there's still days, like I said, but for the most part, I am more positive about workouts and my training in general. So
One of the things I think is so important about what you just said there is this idea of time. And that even if we identify something that we're interested in improving or enhancing, it takes time. It's not like one day you wake up, like, I'm just going to be positive every time I go to a training session or get beat
talking,
in a workout. What's that?
yeah, I'm talking years. Like it's taken time. It's
Yeah.
not like, oh, a month later, oh, I'm positive. No, it's taken some years to get there, but
And
I'm at the point now.
yeah, and I think that's so important for anyone to understand is that, I mean, just like it's taken years to get physically where your fitness and capacity is, the same thing can be said of the mental state and the mindset behind pushing you there. One thing I'm kind of curious to dive into because I think it's come up a few times and it seems kind of relevant given the CrossFit space right now is this idea around community and training together. CrossFit can be an individual sport. You can compete on a team. So those are different options. A lot of the workouts that you engage in are individual in nature. But for you, you said that who you surround yourself with, the community of people you have is very important. We've seen a lot of athletes in the CrossFit space pick up and move to a new place so that they could train together with others. How much benefit do you feel like there is by being in an environment that aligns with what your goals are and maybe even shares some of those same mental attitudes, mindset, beliefs as you do, so you can learn from each other? Like, how important is that for you and your development?
Very important. We have a lot of competitive athletes at the gym right now. And when you start, like, we always go back and forth on workouts. Like, there's not just one person winning a workout every time. And I love that. And I love that it's not really like a jealousy thing around it. It's more like, good job on that workout. You crushed that workout. But it's supportive and it's also competitive at the same time. So it's like a weird mix of things. But I want to be surrounded by people who make me better emotionally and physically. If I have someone around me who's, I don't know, like jealous that I did this, and this, like, that's not going to make me better, right? I want someone who's supportive at the same time, who's going to challenge me every day. And I feel like we have a really good group of people right now to do that. I mean, I get my butt kicked every day in something, at least. And sometimes I kick their butts and stuff. So it goes back and forth, and it's just genuinely good people who want to get better at CrossFit, who love competing. And that's who I want to surround myself with. Just supportive, competitive people, and also people who just support me in general. They don't have to be competitive.
Yeah. Some things I heard you say there that I think are really cool is the balance between competition and then collaboration or support, because sometimes those two things can butt heads. If I'm constantly competing against other people, then it can be hard to want to support and encourage them because I'm trying to beat them. And finding that balance, it can be incredibly powerful and at the same time a challenge.
Yeah.
So talk to us, how has the community that you're in come to find that balance? Is it something you've all established from day one? Is it something you had to learn along the way? Like, how do you find that, like, I want to beat you, but I also want you to do well in these workouts?
I think it's just our personalities. I don't know. I don't think it's like specific. I don't think we like establish that, right? I just think we just have good humans around that care about each other, who want to push each other, but also want to win and want you to win at the same time. Like, for a good example of this is doing a competition in August, and me and Shaylin are going against each other. And we were talking about it. I was like, I really want you to win, but I also want to win. And then she was like saying the same thing. She's like, we're going to kill each other. And I was like, yes, we are. But that's the culture. Like, we'll be happy for each other, whoever wins. But at the same time, we're competing against each other. So it's just like caring about the people around you, but also knowing that you want to be at this high level and compete. It's just like anything, though. Like, you shouldn't, like, if on a sports team, for example, like, I'm not mad at a team for winning. Like, they work just as hard as me, maybe even harder. I don't know what they do behind the scenes, but you can't be mad at someone for winning because they put in work too. So if you have that kind of mindset towards it, I guess it makes it better. But I think it also has to do with the personalities you have around you.
Yeah. So it sounds like from your experience, finding the right personalities, the right people to gel, bond together can be helpful, and that you can have both at the same time. We can have competitiveness and really pushing each other to whatever that potential or limit is. And at the same time, there's encouragement, learning from each other, supporting each other. And it sounds like that creates the right environment for you to thrive and you to find what that potential is?
It's not even the competitive athletes too. It's even the other athletes at our gym. Like, if anyone motivates me more, it's those athletes, the athletes I coach every day. And I love taking class with them. They push me just as hard, right? They're yelling at me, come on, Maria, you got this. So it's not just the competitive athletes in our gym, it's the community as a whole. Like, if I just had competitive athletes around me and that's it, like, it would just be boring. Like, I like mixtures of people. I like learning about people and what their journeys are and their potential. I know we said the word potential a lot, but someone might, their goal might be to get a toast bar. And I'm going to get excited as hell when they get a toast bar, or if they're close to a toast bar, because that's their goal and that's what they want their potential to be. So it's not just me being around competitive athletes all the time. It's the community as a whole that makes me want to keep going.
Yeah. And I think that idea of community is a common thread that we hear about and we see and interact with, and how important that is. If that is dialed in and that is operating at a high level, it's amazing the changes people can experience and notice in their mindset, their physical nature, the things they can do inside and outside the gym. So I think that speaks volumes to what we've seen and what people experience. So I'm curious to hear from you. We've got some bigger goals, semifinals coming up next year, hopefully games beyond that. What's coming up in the near future? What are things that you're excited about, or things that are getting you motivated in between those bigger pillars that you've got?
I've been competing a lot. I feel like I have not competed I've competed a little bit, but now is the time to do it. Now is the time to learn. And every time I do a competition, I learn. So here we are doing a lot of competitions. The next competition I have is with you guys in New Bern. It's a 4-person team, me, Brad, Street, Ryan Eason. And then after that, I have the Monster Games, which is in Missouri, with one of my friends, Aaliyah, who's on the Army fitness team. We met on the leaderboard. So it's kind of funny. We just reached out to each other and hit it off. And we're like, let's do a competition together. So we're doing that one, which will be a lot of fun. The Bull City Brawl, I'll be doing with Shaylin. And we're competing against T and Street. So that'll be fun. Talk about friendly competition. And then I'm going to do my first individual competition in August at Top of the Box, also against Shaylin. So I'm going to be doing one with Shaylin and against her. So
nice. So a lot of opportunities coming up, it sounds like, to see where you're at, but at the same time, like you said, have a learning mentality, learning experience. When you think about competition, how do you access or feel like you're able to compete at your best on game day? Is there a certain mentality that you like to take as you go into these competitions, or how do you go about preparing yourself to take the floor and see how well you do?
So I have a big imagination. So I like to envision myself in that space competing, hitting a lift or doing a certain workout that maybe they released, or a certain movement. And I like to imagine myself like in that space competing. A lot of people like to look up their competition. I do not like to do that. I like to just go in and think about staying in my lane and what I need to do, because ultimately, if I give my 110% and I know my skill level and where I'm at, like, it's not going to make any difference who's next to me, right? So I try to just stay in my lane and focus on the task at hand and not look at who I'm competing with or against. And also that positive outlook, just learning from each experience. Yeah, those are the three things, but I really like to sit there and envision myself in the space I'm competing, and envision myself hitting lifts, because then I'm more likely to go there and hit a lift or do good in a workout, because I basically conditioned my brain that this is going to happen on game day. So
yeah, the term the skill that would be considered imagery or visualization, an incredibly powerful tool because our brains love to think in images and stories. And when we imagine ourselves doing something, our brains usually can't tell the difference between reality versus the visualization we're doing. So really cool way to prime yourself and get yourself ready to go on competition day. Well,
Yeah.
I think we've talked about a variety of topics. It's been really fun to not only get to know you on a better level, but hear and get to listen in to the insight that you've come to know over the years and all of the different roles you've had, the different experiences you've had, the different competitions you've had. So it's been really fun to get to get to know the inner workings of what's going on upstairs from your mental state and how you're looking forward to what's coming up. So with that being said, Maria, if anybody's interested in following along with your journey or staying up to date with what you're doing, any channels or anywhere that people can find you or reach out?
Yeah, my Instagram. So it's at MCLUVA2047.
Perfect. So if anyone's interested in following along with Maria's journey as she continues crossfitting, getting into social work, getting into her leadership role within the Army, a variety of opportunities. It's fun to see where she's at and where she's going. So thank you so much for jumping on the show with us today, Maria. It was awesome having you on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.